Hello, this is Mrs. Ellison again, and we are going to continue with our work through of the Algebra 1, Unit 1, Chapters 1 and 2 practice test. We left off with number 18. Solve negative 6g minus 4 plus 3g equals 10 minus 3g minus 14. Tell whether the equation has infinitely many solutions or no solutions. So we'll start by collecting our like terms on each side. Negative 6g and 3g would be negative 3g and our minus 4. And then over here, we also have negative 3g, but we have 10 minus 14 would be minus 4. Now, in my classes, we talked about how when we got to a part in solving the equation where the two sides looked identical, what we have here is a true statement or an identity. And anytime we have an identity, we have infinitely many solutions. Because any value we plug in for g is going to make the same value on both sides of this equation. So we have infinitely many solutions. That is option D. Now, number 19 says to solve 6 times the absolute value of x plus 6 equals 36. Now here's where we had our little modified t-chart, and at the top we said to isolate the absolute value. In the middle we were to write and solve two equations, and then at the end we need to check our answer. So we notice here that the absolute value expression is not isolated. It's being multiplied by 6. So to undo that, we need to divide both sides by 6 to cancel out that multiplication. That gives us that the absolute value of x plus 6 equals 6. So we now have the absolute value expression isolated, and we can write two equations. The first will be that x plus 6 could possibly be negative 6, and the other would be that x plus 6 could be positive 6. And each of these equations can be solved by subtracting 6 from both sides, leaving us on the left with negative 12, and on the right here with 0. What remains then is to check our answer in the original equation. So we have 6 times the absolute value of negative 12 plus 6. That is 6 times negative 6, absolute value, and absolute value of negative 6 is positive 6. Positive 6 and 6 times 6 would be 36. On the right-hand side, we have 6 times the absolute value of 0 plus 6. And 0 plus 6 is 6. Absolute value of 6 is also 6, so 6 times 6 again is 36. And both of these answers should work. So negative 12 and 0 are our two solutions. That is option A. For number 20, we are asked to solve the absolute value of 4x minus 2 plus 9 equals 7. Now again, we have a situation where we can use our little modified t-chart. We isolate, we solve our two equations, and we check answers. So this absolute value expression is not isolated either. We have this 9 that's being added to it. So let's go ahead and subtract that 9 from both sides. So we have the absolute value of 4x minus 2 equals negative 2. Right here is where you should have all sorts of alarms going off in your brain. We know absolute value is never negative. So this must have no solution. 20 is B. Number 21, the fuel for a chainsaw is a mix of oil and gasoline. The ratio of ounces of oil to gallons of gasoline is 3 to 11. If there are 22 gallons of gasoline, how many ounces of oil are there? So I set up ratio problems this way. We have a ratio of oil to gasoline, and that ratio is 3 to 11. We know we have 22 gallons of gasoline, and we want to know how many ounces of oil there are. So this is what allows me to set up my proportion. I can pretty much just write these fractions exactly the way they appear here. If I make this x, then I could say that 3 over x equals 11 over 22. And from here I would cross multiply. This is 11x. This is 3 times 22, which is 66. And then I can solve for x by dividing both sides by 11, and x is 6. So there are 6 ounces of oil. That's option C. Number 22, find the value of mn if AB equals 12, BC equals 9.6, and LM equals 16. We're looking for mn, that's this value here. And they give us this similarity statement, ABCD is similar to LMNO. And the way that I presented this, we're given AB as 12, and those are the first 2 letters here, so the first 2 letters over here would be the corresponding side, and that would be 16. We're given BC, which is the middle 2 letters, is 9.6. So the middle 2 letters over here would correspond to that, and that is the side x that we're looking for. Now again, we almost have our proportion set up for us this way. At least looks like something we can solve here. X times 12 is 12x, and 9x times 16, 9.6 times 16 is 153.6. Divide both sides by 12, and that gives us x is equal to 12.8. And that is choice D. Number 23 says 73 is 28% of what number? So when we're looking at percents, we can think of them in terms of part over whole. And that equals percent over 100. And we talked about this as being the is, and this is the of when it's worded this way. So this is an is number, that's 73. And that makes sense. We're looking for the whole. It's of what number? And the percent is 28, always over 100. So we have 28x equals 7,300. And we need to divide both sides by 28. That gives us x equals 260.714, and it says to round to the nearest hundredth. That's the second decimal place, so that would be 260.71. Number 24 says to find the percent change from 100 to 32. And I presented this to my classes as that is our old number, this is our new number, and the formula is new minus old over old. So this represents the change. It'll be positive if it's an increase, negative if it's a decrease, and then we divide that by the original number. So in this case, we have our new number is 32. We're going to subtract 100 as our old number and divide by 100. 32 minus 100 is negative 68. Divided by 100 gives us negative 0.68. Now as a percent, that will be 68%, and being negative, that is a decrease. So that will be B. Number 25, after 11 months, the simple interest earned annually on an investment of $9,000 was $901. Find the interest rate to the nearest tenth of a percent. Okay, our interest formula looks like this, I equals PRT. Remember, this is our initial investment or initial amount borrowed. R is our rate as a decimal. And T is our time, always in years. Now you'll notice this problem did not give us our time in years, it gave it to us in months. So we will need to write this as a fraction of a year. So our interest was $901. Our principal amount, the initial amount, was $9,000. R is what we're looking for. And time in years will have to be 11/12 because there are 12 months in a year, and we are wondering about this after the 11th month. So you should multiply together the two numbers that are given on the right-hand side, and 11/12 times 9,000 is 8,250. So 8,250 times R equals 901, and then we divide by 8,250, and that gives us our R. So 901 divided by 8,250 is 0.10921, and that 21 seems to repeat. This asks to the nearest tenth of a percent. So first thing we need to do is switch this to a percent. That looks like 10.921 with the 21 repeating. And the tenth would be this first decimal place right here. So 10.9% is option C. And this concludes the work through of the practice test. As always, feel free to ask your teacher if you have any questions about any of the material on this practice test, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you.